Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Weapons of War podcast. I'm your host, Eden Chironde. Today, we are going to look at central bank digital currencies again. This is because there have been another development since I last talked about them, and BoU has taken another step towards the issuance of a central bank digital currency in the country. In June this year, Bank of Uganda released the final consultative report on the CBDC issuance, but I can say it was largely a reiteration of the report that they got from the research that was gathered. Let me back up a bit. In June last year, 2024, BoU sent out questionnaires to various stakeholders. We shall look at them here to answer questions in regard to the country's readiness to issue a central bank digital currency. So the research findings were discussed on March 4th, 2025, by a number of stakeholders. They discussed what are the research findings, again as part of the process to gauge the temperature if Uganda is suitable already to embrace central bank digital currencies. So after that consultative meeting, Bank of Uganda has released the final report, and largely speaking, it is more of a reiteration of the research findings, but we shall go through them. Perhaps again, to back up a bit, central bank digital currencies, this is digital money. Digital money, what do I mean by digital money? It's like you have a mobile money. You may have 10K, 20K, a million, but it's virtual. You're not touching it, okay? But you can transact with it. You can send to your relatives, you can pay school fees, you can buy a shirt, a dress, shoes, or go for a meal in a restaurant, whatever it is. You are not touching it, but it's virtual money, okay? So that's how they are going to be. But these central bank digital currencies are going to be issued by the central banks, and that's how they differ from cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies are issued by individuals or companies. I had Facebook wanted to start one, cryptocurrency. So people buy those currencies and they start transacting, but they never touch paper or coin money. So the central bank wants to issue central bank digital currencies in order for the country to go cashless, to get rid of cash and coins, that all our transactions are now on digital. Everyone has an account. And again, I tackled a lot about the accounts there. Think of, can we go retail, where everyone is given tokens, where Bank of Uganda handles that on an individual level, or they go wholesale, where Bank of Uganda gives this central bank digital currency, perhaps tokens, to commercial banks to transact, and then it's the commercial banks that reach down to the people. So we find that there are lots of issues to address regarding the applicability of the central bank digital currencies in Uganda. But at least as far as the Bank of Uganda is concerned, they released the final consultative report. This is what they said. I want to recap the major points captured in that report. The report had 151 respondents. 96% of the respondents were based in Uganda. 4% of the respondents were from Kenya, Armenia, Egypt, Sri Lanka, and Tanzania. The respondents were mainly from government ministries, departments and agencies, financial institutions, and non-government organizations. So we find that they reached an array of stakeholders to respond to these research findings, and the research findings were discussed on March 4th, and from that discussion has come this final consultative report. But again, I'll pause here to say that regarding many of these global agendas, when they're being rolled out, like the central bank digital currency agenda, you find that they are not exactly local prepositions, they are global. That's one. This is not only happening in Uganda, it's happening on a global scale, like we'll see later. We find that when they are rolling out these global agendas, the individual countries always want to give off a picture or posture like they are taking individual decisions and they're doing the due diligence, yet in actual reality they know the predetermined end they want to get to, which then makes all these processes more of a rubber stamping kind of processes all ventures or commissions or research, whatever it is, they're just rubber stamping steps towards the final predetermined agenda, which is to issue a central bank digital currency in Uganda. I thought I should make that clear. So they said that the purpose of the consultation that was held in March 4th, was to assess the stakeholders' views on the potential issuance of central bank digital currency in Uganda. The issuance of the central bank would aid, they start to give us the pros, why we need it, that it would help modernizing Uganda's payment system, that it would help fostering financial inclusion, and supporting the digital economy. Those are the first two reasons they gave. Modernizing Uganda's payment system, fostering the financial inclusion, and supporting the digital economy. And these are some of the key findings from the final report that was released in June this year. The findings of the consultations were validated by the stakeholders. Now, this is what they say. 83.4% of the respondents trust that the central bank digital currencies are safe and reliable digital payment methods. Safe and reliable. 83.4% of the respondents. The respondents were 151. 78.8% would prefer CBDC over cash. They would prefer this digital money over cash, 78.8%. This is a move towards going cashless, to have a cashless society where we have no banknotes or coins. 88.7% agree that the central bank digital currency would have a positive impact on the economy. 70.9% believe it would reduce the currency-related costs. According to research, Uganda spends, that's a 2022-2023 financial year, apparently we spend almost in the regions of 200 billion in terms of printing this cash and issuing it out. So 70.9% believe it would reduce the currency-related costs. 60.3% think Uganda's decision would be influenced by other countries, particularly East African Community partner states. Then go to mention the opportunities identified and the benefits of why we should have the CBDC. 49% of the respondents indicated that central bank digital currency issuance could promote financial inclusion. 49%. So they said, well, it could, almost 50-50. Some say it will, some say it will not. But 62.9% respondents indicated the following additional benefits of why we should issue a central bank digital currency, why BoU, Bank of Uganda, should issue a central bank digital currency. 1, deepening the digital economy across various sectors. That we need to go digital to foster innovation and efficiency. 2, this would make financial transactions more transparent by recording all transactions. When you go to the use of central bank digital currencies, the technology used, the blockchain technology, will be able to track all transactions. So they're saying that issuing a central bank digital currency would improve transparency. This could reduce opportunities or the issues that we complain about, corruption, money laundering, and tax evasion. But then they also say that this would also, issuing a central bank digital currency would also improve transaction speed, reliability, and reduce operational risks. I think people having to move money in bullion vans and everything. You've seen what happens at times to mobile money agents who are attacked and some killed. So it will help to reduce all those kind of risks, whatever it is. And then incentivizing the digital payments and bringing more transactions into the formal sector. This would lead to enhanced effectiveness of fiscal policies, that more people will be able to get into the fiscal sector once we get into the issuance of central bank digital currencies. They say there will be a cost reduction. We mentioned that. And then they talk about increasing financial inclusion. We've talked about that. Improving cross-border trade and regional financial integration. They talk about that. And another benefit they talk about is enhanced monetary policy implementation. Monetary policy really is the control of the quantity of money in circulation. If you want it to reduce or you want it to be more, that when they issue CBDCs, it will be easier to effect. And then they talk about the impact. What do we expect to be the impact? Once they are issued, what will be the impact on ground? The report says that 88.7% of the respondents of these stakeholders, the experts, strongly agree that the issuance of the central bank digital currency would have a positive impact on the economy. That's what they agree. Why do they agree? Because of the benefits we've talked about. Only 9.3% expressed their skepticism. In terms of trust, how much do these people trust these central bank digital currencies? 83.4% said they are going to be safe and reliable. Only 12.6% disagreed. In terms of adoption, 78.8% respondents said they would prefer using central bank digital currencies over banknotes and coins. 78.8%. They said CBDCs are less susceptible to theft, counterfeiting, and loss compared to risk associated with handling cash. They said CBDCs would streamline payments, allowing for faster, more efficient transactions, especially for everyday purchases. They talked about hygiene and public health, citing the pandemic where you don't have so many people touching the same note, and then reduction in costs associated with printing and transporting and securing physical currency. They said that those would be some of the reasons why we should adopt this. But there's something that we need to, I talked about it, that in 2020 to 2023, that financial year, that Bank of Uganda spent in the regions of 199 billion shillings. That's $55.5 million on printing and issuing new currency, which was a 16% increase compared to the year 2021 to 22, where the Bank of Uganda spent 172.3 billion. So you find that they are looking at this increase in terms of expenditure on printing and issuing money, and they are saying that one of the ways of saving that money, let's go digital and stop printing money. We stop the coins. This money can be distributed digitally. I mean, since digital money, they will send ourselves mobile money. Now the banks will be issuing us the central bank digital currencies. And in terms of usage, 78.1% of the respondents said they are likely to use the central bank digital currency if launched by the Bank of Uganda. If on the account of the following the benefits mentioned above, challenges are mentioned. The challenges that have been mentioned are here. They said inadequate infrastructure, of course, because this being digital, it will rely so much on our internet infrastructure, unreliable internet, electricity issues, and low smartphone penetration. You may look at that. Cybersecurity concerns and risks associated with data privacy. Cybersecurity concerns, of course, you know what happens out there. People can hack into the banks and get the money, steal the money, and then potential negative impact on commercial banks and the informal sector. That is the impact. What will be the impact of the launch of central bank digital currencies on the existing financial ecosystem? Financial ecosystem, how people transact today. What will happen to the commercial banks? What will happen to the mobile money bank? What will happen to the all these payment systems, the Visas, the MasterCards, and all that, when now the Bank of Uganda, or even the cryptocurrency market that is growing, what will happen to it when the Bank of Uganda now issues its own central bank digital currency? Will still people be operating mobile money? Will commercial banks still be needed? I don't know. So those are some of the challenges they are looking at. Therefore, because of what we've talked about that has come out from this report, they say that the recommendations, overall the assessment is that the potential issuance of the central bank digital currency in Uganda warrants considerations and further study. So one of the major things they said here, we should conduct a detailed feasibility study to assess the costs and benefits, and then undertake a pilot program. So here they talk about their next steps. I don't know that they are going to again take a further study after this research when they are calling this report the final. And again, the step here that they could be going for is undertaking a pilot program. In a global context, again, the report also goes ahead to show us that in a global context, as of March 2025, over 134 countries had either launched, piloted, or are exploring the launch of central bank digital currencies. In Africa, the Central Bank of Nigeria has launched their Naira, that was in 2021. The Bank of Ghana piloted the ECD in 2021. In the East African community, what is the situation? Rwanda and Tanzania are already exploring the central bank digital currencies, while Kenya issued a CBDC discussion paper, but Kenya is still holding on, and they deferred its implementation, noting that the CBDC may not be a priority for the country in the short term. So Kenya is holding on a bit. So Bank of Uganda here has issued its final report saying that they are ready perhaps to get into the pilot phase. But they conclude here by saying that they understand that adopting a CBDC, a central bank digital currency, is complex and multidisciplinary, requiring active engagement from all stakeholders, including the private sector. That is the concern they raise, that they understand that it is complex and multidisciplinary, that it touches so many disciplines, if we may say. It touches mobile money, touches commercial banks, touches Visa, touches the regulatory side of things, touches so many things. So that's what they mean multidisciplinary. Of all the good things spoken of about the central bank digital currencies in this report that was issued in June 2025, the final consultative report on CBDCs by BoU, again, like they did in that stakeholders meeting they had on March 4th this year again, they gloss over the major challenge or bottleneck to the CBDCs in general. They gloss over it. They say there are going to be these challenges, adoption, cybersecurity. In as much as those are challenges, and they are, I mean, we live with them, we see them, and the media is being channeled to discuss that. How are we digital ready? Is our digital infrastructure? What about the digital penetration? What about smartphones? Does everyone have a smartphone? What's the penetration of the internet? What about my mother deep down? How will they access money? We are discussing those kind of challenges because they are the challenges that have been presented to us. And we are also going ahead to discuss the challenges that haven't been discussed or presented to us. The worst of all is the fact that the central bank digital currencies, again, I don't want to take it for granted that we have new viewers, all who are watching the Weapons of War podcast for the first time. I won't hesitate to go over them and playing certain of these clips for you to watch for yourself. The major challenge with the central bank digital currency is its programmability. Again, when I talk about programmability, I mean the ability to program your money. I'll bring it home when you say that, when you talk about programmability, when say your commercial bank says that, or programs that, which account do you have? It's a salary kind of account. And they say salary accounts, when you go to your ATM, you can only withdraw a maximum of, say, 1 million per withdrawal, but per day you can only withdraw 2 million. That's how they program those accounts. But someone else who has another, say, prestige kind of account, they may say per withdraw they can even withdraw up to 10 million, and perhaps per day they can withdraw 50 million. You understand? Those who have perhaps business accounts, they may say, no, a business account person can withdraw as much as they can, perhaps limitless. They program those accounts like that. So when you talk about programmability of the central bank digital currencies, it means that your money can be programmed to decide what you can buy, what you cannot buy, where you can buy it, in what quantities you can buy it, and so on and so forth. And because of the programmability function of central bank digital currencies, it poses the greatest risk that the people who will be in controlling all these accounts can decide that, say, you spoke badly about the government or about a certain entity on social media, therefore we are going to punish you. You can't buy internet. And then you try to buy internet, but your man has been programmed not to buy internet. Your man has been programmed not to, say, to travel somewhere. Why? Because when you travel somewhere, because of, we're fighting climate change, there's going to be a lot of emissions of, a lot of greenhouse, gas emissions. Therefore, you can't travel there as frequently as you want. Understand? But again, I don't want you to just believe me or take my word for that. I'm going to be playing you clips one by one so that you hear what other global leaders have said about the function of central bank digital currencies. We shall start with none other than Christine Lagarde, the European Central Bank head. And here is what she had to say about central bank digital currencies. And you also hear talk about the war on cash.
You're introducing the electronic euro, as I know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how can switching to an electronic currency help?
Now we have in Europe this threshold. Above 1,000 euros, you cannot pay cash. If you do, you are on the grey market. You take your risk. You get caught, you are fined, or you go in jail. But the digital euro is going to have a limited amount of control. There will be control, you're right. You're completely right. We are considering whether for very small amounts, anything that is around 300, 400 euros, we could have a mechanism where there is zero control. But that could be dangerous. The terrorist attacks on France back 10 years ago were entirely financed by those very small anonymous credit cards that you can recharge in total anonymity.
So from that you hear that she was asked a simple question, which we should all ask ourselves. How can switching to an electronic currency help? How can switching from coins and paper money, banknotes, to a central bank digital currency help? Because we are all we all want to know, why are we taking this move? How is this move going to work for me? She was asked that basic questions. And you had the answer. She said, now we have in Europe this threshold above 1,000 euros, you cannot pay cash. What? So above 1,000 euros, you cannot pay cash. So that then gives you a hint that while in the earlier stages, they may tell you that central bank digital currency will coexist with cash or with the coins, the ultimate goal is to get rid of cash. And the war against cash has already started. She talks about this threshold that has been set in Europe, that above 1,000 euros, you cannot pay in cash. You have to pay digitally. If you do, she continues, you are on the grey market. You take the risk, or perhaps you may call it the black market. You take the risk, and you get caught, you are fined, or you go to jail. Now you imagine being fined or sent to jail, or even both, because of using your cash. Because of your preference to use cash and not digital money. Now you have to step back and say, is that money that you did not steal, money that is not that you laundered money or you got it in any other illicit way, is that reasonable that someone wants to punish you for preferring to use cash and not digital money? You have to ask those serious questions. And then she continues, digital euro is going to have a limited amounts of control. Limited amounts of control. So then you have to ask yourself, analyze this statement, who will determine the limited amount of control, and how limited will it be? And what if what they call limited is an intrusion on my side? Who will vote on that? You see that your participation, even in the passing of this final consultative report, has been almost zero. So now when it comes to this limited amount of control, do you think your participation will be needed or even had? There won't be any vote on that. And then she continues that for amounts about 300 and 400 euros, they are considering no control for small amounts, that people can use cash for small amounts. But then she's quick to refer to terrorism, that perhaps we need to also control that. Why? Because the terrorists in Paris used, exchange small amounts. They sent money in smaller, amounts to carry out that heinous act that they did. So she also wants to clamp down on these small things. But again, she comes in saying that this will also be done in order to help us clamp down on terrorism, because they'll be able to see and monitor each and every transaction. So there is one from our own statements. You can see there is a war on cash. Cash is not here to stay. People are being fined and sent to jail for using cash. Then you know that cash is not here to stay, right? And then there is the limited control. Who's going to be in control of this? And then they say, again, this is being done because of terrorism. You see, she alludes to that. But again, wondering why there's this war on cash. Let's also look at this next clip by the economist Swap Prasad, who was speaking at the World Economic Forum earlier this year, 2025, in China. So listen to his words, and we shall also come back and analyze them.
And the one final note I will make is that if you think about the benefits of digital money, there are huge potential gains. It's not just about digital forms of physical currency. You can have programmability, units of central bank currency with expiry dates. You could have, as I argue in my book, a potentially better and some people might see it, or a darker world where the government decides that units of central bank money can be used to purchase some things, but not other things that it deems less desirable, like say ammunition or drugs or pornography or something of the sort. And that is very powerful in terms of the use of a CBDC.
Again, he was also commenting about the benefits. I love it that they talk about the benefits. When you think about the benefits of digital money, he says there are huge potential gains. And for me, when someone raises such stakes that there are huge potential gains, even your ears, get wider. You're like, okay, potential gains, let me hear them. To me, potential gains to me, how is this going to work out for me better than cash and coins? And says it's not just going to be about digital forms of physical money. Then he continues, you can have programmability, what I told you about, that they can program this money, that your money cannot say, if we are fighting climate change, that's the example I'll give for now, that we want to get rid of fumes. There are so many fumes, right? So people want to cut back on the sale of petrol or diesel cars. So they can program your money that you can't buy those cars, that your money should only buy a bicycle, right? They can program your money to that extent, to what you can purchase, where you can purchase it, in what quantities you purchase it, how often you purchase it. And they can program your money to the degree that to determine for you where you can go and where you cannot go, beyond which points you go or not go. If they decide that your central bank digital account can only work within 15-minute radius of where you stay, if you step beyond 15-minute radius, say you reside in Kampala and they say a 15-minute radius from Kampala where you stay, and you want to go to Jinja, your central bank digital account can be programmed that it cannot work in Jinja. It can only work within this jurisdiction where it has been set, because whatever we are fighting, so we have to all adhere to this. It can be programmed that, oh, you said this about this, and it didn't, please the powers that be, and they can clamp down on that. And they come down on you, freeze your account. And today while they can freeze your account and you have, cash here and there, what if when there's no cash or coins, then what are you going to do? You're buggered, you're finished. So he talks about you can have programmability about the central bank digital currency. This as well Prasad, the economist. He says units of central bank digital currency with expiry dates. You've heard about entities that are given money to spend within a certain time period. I don't know whether those will be the entities to have expiry dates, or even we individuals, our money shall have expiry dates. But he also goes ahead and says some people may see it as a dark world. Now he's making another point, that some people may see it as a dark world where government decides units of central bank money can be used, where governments can decide where units of central bank money, your money, can be used to purchase some things and not other things that it deems less desirable, like ammunition, drugs, or pornography. Now, Aswad Prasad said that some people may see this as a dark world, but for him it doesn't see it as a dark world, where the government can come in and decide that this central bank digital currency cannot buy certain goods that are less desirable. He mentions ammunition, drugs, and pornography. And like I've already stated, that he mentions things that we generally all agree to. When you say drugs, when you say pornography, generally speaking, people agree, no one should buy those things. That they are illicit, generally speaking. But then, what if the government goes ahead and controls other things? What if it extends its powers? What if it extends beyond what he has mentioned here? Do you think it will stop on pornography and drugs? Even ammunition. In some countries, ammunition is allowed, like USA, for protection. People protect themselves from lots of things. Ammunition is allowed. But here, the central bank digital currency can even be targeted or programmed that you cannot buy ammunition. Now, those in countries where it's illegal or it's okay for someone to own a firearm after, whatever training they go through and licenses and all. And says that some people see this as a dark world. So this central bank digital currency, again, you see that it's transferring a lot of power into the government hands. And you know, whenever everything that happens, whenever government is given more power, they say power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now imagine a state where a government can program your money. What would happen in that case? That to decide this what's desirable and not desirable. So the government should be given the mandate to decide for me what's desirable and what's not desirable. I think for me in that case, if something's not desirable, just whatever desirable is legalized, whatever is not desirable should be made illegal. It's simple as that. But you don't go into controlling and programming people's money, and it calls that, and that's very powerful in terms of the use of central bank digital currencies. It calls that powerful. That's very nice, where governments will have control over your money, where governments will have the ability to program your money, what you can purchase, where you can purchase it, what quantities to purchase it, how often, your movements, etc. That's very powerful. Powerful according to whom? Powerful to me or to the people seeking more power? You get? How is that powerful to me? How is that a benefit to me? I don't see any benefit in that, where someone intrudes into my expenditures to that level, especially for money that I've made myself not in any illicit way. You get? And again, we can look at, there's also another, someone may be wondering, so how will they be able to determine for me, or how will I know the threshold of things to buy and not buy? Again, they have talked about starting of carbon credits, a carbon credit system, where every individual has a carbon credit system. What is a carbon credit system? It's a system that calculates your own participation in the greenhouse emissions. Personally, you as you, they can calculate for planes, they can calculate for industries. Now you as you, they want to introduce a carbon credit system where you can also know that this that I've purchased means, if I purchase, say, 4 trousers, that means I've contributed this much to the greenhouse emissions. So I've contributed this much to climate change. But with that carbon credit system, if say I move from Kampala to go visit my mom or my parents or my relatives or my friends outside of town in the village, because I've been in a fuel-powered car, petrol or diesel, I've contributed this much to the emissions personally by taking that journey. If then you move from Uganda and want to fly out to wherever you want to fly out to relax, to enjoy life, now you also have your own carbon credit, system that shows you that, hey, that flight you've taken, this is on your account. You've emitted this so many greenhouse gases. So you are being a hazard to our planet. So with that carbon credit system, people will be given thresholds, perhaps per month or per year, never known to pass. If you pass that threshold, then you won't be able to access your central bank digital currency account. If you cross that threshold, so you have to step below. So if you step below, that means that you have to really be your own monitor. Otherwise, if you exceed and you are abusing the planet like this, like that, that means that you could be locked out of your own account. You are abusing the planet. So you find that this central bank digital currency will also be used to effect other agendas that they'll be rolling out. That if you don't accept that agenda, then you are locked out of your account. If you don't accept this agenda, then you suffer these repercussions. Again, we don't have to look so far. We talked about, perhaps I'll play this clip, perhaps at the end, the tracker in Canada in 2022, who was demonstrating against the mandatory COVID vaccines for the transporters, the trackers in Canada. And he was singled out and was locked out of his account. It was frozen. He couldn't access it. And then you also know about the teacher in the UK who refused to bow to the transgender movement, calling girls boys and boys girls, and then he also he was locked out of his account. So now you see that central bank digital currencies will be used for that to make people to bow to various agendas that will be rolled out. So you find that this central bank digital currency will not be a currency per se. It will be a tool to make you adhere or bow down to whatever will be rolled out. But then again, let's also continue and look at Augustine Carstens, the former general manager of the Bank of International Settlements. Again, the Bank of International Settlements is the bank that overlooks all central banks. So he was the general manager. He just resigned. He just left that post on June 30th, 2025. And this is what he had to say about central bank cryptocurrencies.
We tend to establish the equivalence with cash, and there is a huge difference there. For example, in cash, we don't know, for example, who's using a $100 bill today. We don't know who is using a 1,000 peso bill today. A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. And also we will have the technology to enforce that. Those two issues are extremely important, and that makes a huge difference with respect to what cash is.
But again, perhaps before we analyze his comments, you have to note that you see that when the Bank of Uganda finalized its consultative report on the potential issuance of central bank cryptocurrencies, they never mentioned these challenges. They never mentioned these potential threats to freedoms, to your own personal liberties. They never mention them. They talk about cyber security, they talk about infrastructure development, digitally speaking. They talk about all other things, but they don't mention this. Yet this is the biggest evil behind central bank cryptocurrencies. And again, when we talk about all these restrictions, we have to notice that, of course, these restrictions will not be applied uniformly. These restrictions will be for the general you and me, but there will be essential workers. I think that term sounds familiar. There will be essential workers who will be above these laws, who for them they will be able to access, buy whatever they want, enjoy life as normal. But the rest of the world is suffering the effects of these central bank cryptocurrencies. Now getting to Augustine Customs, the former GM of the Bank of International Settlements, he said that and that this was in October 2020. He said that the central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations and determine the use of your money. Absolute control. That's absolute power. So we are putting a lot of power in someone's hands to control our money, our expenditures. Who will be able to rein in on this person? By the way, you have to even note that you never voted these people. So there's nothing like voting them out. It goes on to say that they will have the technology, and they have the technology to enforce it. They have the technology to enforce this absolute control. Why? Because this technology will be able to monitor every transaction that is made globally. As long as you are on that central bank cryptocurrency infrastructure, they will be able to monitor. And therefore, if they'll be able to monitor, they'll be able to control as absolutely. We also have to look at, again, another person here. Interesting person is the IMF Deputy Managing Director, BoU. I'll pause here. You watch the clip. Also, we check out and we analyze his comments.
The third way we think CBDC can improve financial inclusion is through what we call programmability. That is, CBDC can allow government agencies and private sector players to program, to create smart contract, to allow targeted policy functions. For example, welfare payment. For example, consumption coupon. For example, food stamp. By programming CBDC, those money can be precisely targeted for what kind of people can own and what kind of use this money can be utilized. For example, for food. So this potential programmability can help government agencies to precisely target their support to those people who need support.
Central bank cryptocurrencies will help financial inclusion using programmability. And he says that this body, the Deputy Managing Directors of IMF, said that government agencies and private sector players can program the central bank cryptocurrency to ensure targeted policy delivery. you see when they're talking about programmability here, they talk about it in positive terms, but when it lands, it will be used for the negative terms because of the intention and the spirit behind it that cannot be hidden. They say it will be used to ensure targeted policy delivery. Now, when you talk about targeted policy delivery, you can think about the parish development model, that certain people in parish, wherever it is, will be able to receive their money in just a flash. The BoU, whoever is in charge of central bank cryptocurrency, issuing these tokens to various people, you can just wire it to your account because everyone will have an account, so they can easily send it out. So they are saying because of programmability, this will be very easy. They can say at their village, we are giving all these people, say, 1 million, and they just program and you have your 1 million already on your account to use, and that's fantastic. You see, they are showing us the so-called good side of it, but these people don't have the good intentions. It says the money can be precisely programmed on what kind of use it can be utilized for. For example, it talks about it can be used for food. But what if it's programmed, that money is programmed, and the programming does not stop with BoU send me money, but also it also continues to program my money where I should spend it. You see, it can be programmed that you can spend your money only on food. That money that I've sent you for the parish development model can only buy these things only for business, so you cannot spend it in a kafunda somewhere or in a bus somewhere. No, it's only for these things. So he said that it can be programmed that way. But it's in the programmability that the evil lies. These people talk about absolute power, the infrastructure to monitor everything, that governments will be able to decide which are desirable goods, which are not desirable. That programmability of the central bank cryptocurrencies is the biggest evil that perhaps we are seeing today, all the powers that be intend to unleash on the population. And then let's look at also the head of the International Monetary Fund. This is what she said. This Kristalina Georgieva, which is also revealing quite a bit. Listen to her, then we shall analyze her comments.
That if we are to be successful, CBDCs could not be fragmented national propositions. To have transactions more efficient and fairer, we need systems that connect countries. In other words, we need interoperability. And for this reason, at the IMF, we are working hard on the concept of a global CBDC platform to trade and to manage risks. And my colleague, Tobias Adrian, will talk more about it later.
Here she said that central bank cryptocurrencies should not be fragmented national prepositions. That they should not be fragmented national prepositions. Now, this means that they should not be managed nationally at a national level. She said that this central bank cryptocurrency should be centrally managed. Now, that even takes away the control from Bank of Uganda to some entity out there, perhaps the International Monetary Fund or the World Bank or whatever it is. Now you find that the forces that are monitoring and controlling are not even seated at BoU. Now perhaps the people at BoU could make some of the essential workers we talked about that may not be so affected by this agenda for now, but will be perhaps in charge of implementing it. And she said to ensure efficiency and fair transactions, we need systems that connect countries. And she mentions interoperability, where you can all operate together, a system. And said IMF is working hard on a concept of a global CBDC platform. Now you see that even these currencies, they will not be managed here, locally. No, they will not be. They will be managed at a global level. Now it's those global powers that you don't know, perhaps that you never elected, therefore even have no power to even vote them out of office, that will be unleashing this reign of control, or I should call it terror, on individuals down to not just capital cities, but down to the villages. Are you seeing the effect of programmability of central bank cryptocurrencies? If this be, again, I continue to say, now we've heard from so many, from their own mouths, what they're talking about programmability. Now let's listen to this lady the former Wall Street investment banker and former Bush administration official, Catherine Austin Fitts, and what she has to say about the central bank digital currencies.
That there is a concerted attempt by governments around the world to digitize commerce and to digitize currency and to basically control people through money.
Correct.
Correct. Okay, so that was my first question. Is this happening? Am I imagining it?
It's absolutely happening. And what's important to understand, it's been happening for a long time. In other words, this is like an invisible corral that they've been building around you for a long, long time. Because how do a few sneak up on the many? Well, you have to do it very quietly and visibly before you throw the trap.
Smart.
So essentially what they're building, because it's converting a currency system into a control system. So it's really the end of currency. And what they're doing is they've been building the different digital pieces. And when it integrates and comes together, then you literally have a digital concentration camp. It's complete and utter control.
Otherwise known as the world.
Here's the thing to understand. You and I grew up in a world where there was mass media, where you were pitching stories, so you had 57 varieties of ice cream and you're pitching them to 57 different niches, but you're still pitching to mass audiences. What we're talking about is a system where you can surveil, control, and influence one person at a time. And with AI and software, each person can have their custom surveillance, influence, nudging, and control system.
And punishment.
Yes. Enforcement.
She mentioned something very, very, very important there. She said that they are converting a currency system into a control system. And I can't agree more. And that's what is happening here. We are not just shifting from paper money, banknotes, and coins. We are actually shifting from currencies to a control system. And that control system is mainly going to be affected because of the programmability of central bank digital currencies. And she said that this is really the end of currency. This is going to be a control system. You behave well, you have access to your account. You behave badly, you have no access to your account. Okay? And then she talks about being surveilled and controlled and everything. So in a nutshell, these central bank digital currencies, though they call them currencies, have nothing to do with currency. They have everything to do with control. Then let's also listen to this German economics professor, Richard Wammer. I don't know if I get that right. Or not just to say about the central bank digital currency.
The really big dangers of CBDCs are the programmability, which is that essentially it's not even money. It's like your money becomes potential money because it depends on a central planner to agree that you should now be allowed to spend this money in this location for this particular transaction and in this particular volume that you want to do. Well, why should that be conditional? But it is going to be when they describe programmability. That's what it's all about. That you can, of course, they present it from a positive side. We can give money to the people who really need it. That's how they will formulate it. But the other side of the coin is that this means that they have their ideas on who should spend money on what and when, and that will be reflected. And sometimes when you want to spend, they'll decide this is no good because you've already used too much carbon. Your carbon footprint is too big, or you've eaten too much beef, or whatever it may be. So we are talking about essentially some kind of social credit scoring or other similar system, and really it's not your money anymore. The push for CBDCs is the final step in a multi-decade program by central planners to increase their power over the people, over countries. This is the ultimate step because the powers of CBDCs are so extraordinary that, even the worst dictators in past centuries could only have dreamt of having such enormous power over the lives of so many people. We are talking about a very dystopian future if we allow central banks to issue central bank digital currencies. And it will be a completely totalitarian system of such frightening proportions, it's hard to imagine.
Again, he also talks about the programmability. He says the huge danger is the programmability, where your money becomes potential money. Potential money, why? Because it could be there, but it existing on your account does not mean you'll be able to access it. Does not mean that you have the freedom to use it for whatever you want to do. Does not mean that because you have 100 million whatever tokens or money that you can easily fly out and go and enjoy yourself. No, it doesn't mean that. It's potential money. It's the central planner, he continues, to agree that you should spend your money. And depending on how you behaved, if you don't have bad social media, comments against the regime or a given agenda, it's the central planner to agree that you should spend your money in a specific location for a particular transaction and in a given volume or quantity. You see, and he says, he mentioned something here very powerful. He said that the push for CBDCs, the final step in the multi-decades program by central planners to increase their power over people and countries. So this about, you had from one of them who said that they will have absolute control. So this is about power and control. And again, this professor continues that the power of CBDC is so extraordinary that even the worst dictators in the past centuries could only dream of having such enormous power over the lives of many people. But I don't think even they dreamt about this much, that you can go down to the detail and determine what someone is going to eat, drink, where they are going to travel, how they are going to do it, where they are going to do it, etc. I don't think they even dreamt about this. So that's how much evil. This shows the extent of the evil behind the programmability function of the central bank digital currencies. But again, like I've always said, that when it comes to central bank digital currencies, my greatest concern, I don't want to say fear, is that it could easily fly over so many people's heads. Why would it fly over so many people's heads? It's because of the language that is used. When you talk about economics and start to talk about stock markets, listings, crypto, so many people switch off because of the jargon that is associated with that. And because many in this side of the world, in Uganda, we don't grow up so much, that financial literacy, especially of knowing those markets, The economic language that we are mainly exposed to is the simple one, of coffee. I got my coffee, I know the price of coffee is this, or my maize, whatever it is. That's the economic language, generally speaking, that we are used to. That when someone starts to speak this kind of central bank digital currencies, so many people, go, what are you talking about? How? That's why my greatest concern that this most of evil agendas could still be sneaked in and even seconded and even easily passes the floor of parliament without anyone taking note, because of the elite kind of language and jargon associated with it, and people may switch off, and then they just wake up one day when perhaps the president is signing that yes, Bank of Uganda can go ahead and issue central bank digital currencies. And then perhaps when people start to test or start to experience how evil it is, and when someone looked out of their accounts, that's when they may wake up then. But by then it could be too late perhaps to roll back the system that will already be in motion at the time. So the time to speak up, the time to resist this is now. It's now, when they're still pretending, talking about these consultative reports and whatever they're doing, perhaps piloting. It's now that we should each one be the brother's keeper. Wake up your neighbor, wake up and your friend, whatever circle of influence that you have. I'm glad. Thank you for watching up to this point. I hope you've been enlightened about this evil agenda that is being planned. It's no longer at the neighbors, it's well within our compound now, but we have a chance to resist before it gets to the bedroom perhaps. So please like, share. If you want to continue the discussion, the comment section is open. You can continue the discussion. Again, I've been your host, Eden Chironde, and this is the Weapons of War podcast. But I'll leave you with 2 videos of these gentlemen who suffered the wrath of the powers that be when they resisted certain agendas. And you see what happened and how they are punished. in regard to the access or lack of access to their own bank accounts. And that is the world that the issuance of central bank digital currencies will usher in. Therefore, be awake. Till next time.
Enoch Burke here. I'm standing outside the Bank of Ireland branch in Castlebar, County Mayo. When I left my workplace today, Wilson's Hospital School, at about 5:30 in the evening, I checked my bank balance, and this is what I found. €0 in my bank account. I have been robbed of €40,617 by the courts. Judge David Nolan, Mr. Rossa Fanning, the Attorney General, and the government all working hand in hand. These people are millionaires. They're driving out of the forecourts in their big cars, but they're vultures sniffing around now to take from me everything I own, to strip from me every asset I have, and to look for anything that I might have that they can take away. That's what these people are doing. We know it all goes back to the fact that in 2022, I was demanded by Principal Niamh McShane to promote transgenderism in the school where I worked. A demand made by that principal, Niamh McShane, still a principal in a school down in Cork, a demand that should never have been made and should not be made today, because there is no shred of legal authority for that demand to be made. But of course, the Minister for Education, Norma Foley, now the Minister for Children, when she was confronted by my family, or asked by my family when I was incarcerated about this issue in 2022, she ran away. She was telling the public lies, saying that this wasn't being taught in schools and classrooms, that it wouldn't happen, but of course it did happen. And the Department for Education is dealing illegally in this matter. The current Minister for Education, Helen McEntee, she is dealing illegally in this matter. And that's the whole problem here from the very beginning. When you go to court, the judges are running out the door. They will not deal with this issue. And it's very sad to be in that state in the country where the judges are telling lies, where the government's working along with them. And of course, we now know that we've got very bad, we've been told now today that, the country is going to have a great recession, tens of thousands of jobs to be lost, maybe a lot more than that, hundreds of thousands. We're being told this by Pascal Donoghue. He's telling us that hard times are coming. You know why? Because he's not fit to rule this country. We know they went to America. There was a lot of spin. But the Americans, it didn't go down well with the Americans because they could smell, I would say, simply the spin. Pascal Donoghue is looking to Europe now. But he's defying God, and the rest of the government, Micheál Martin, Helen McEntee, they're defying God in this country. But righteousness exalts a nation. Righteousness, giving people their just liberties, giving them their due, giving them the right to live uprightly and morally and righteously. That is what exalts this nation. And it's a shame that the church has been silent on this matter, hasn't stood up and exalted God. Our religious freedom is being taken from us in this country. So that's the situation as it stands now tonight. €42,000 and more taken from my bank account, every penny stripped from me.
There I was, no cash, no access to my credit cards, and I had no money for gas, I had no money for lodging, nothing for food. What did I do?
In 2022, Eddie Cornell was at home in New Brunswick, Canada, when he began to hear chatter of a truckers' convoy making its way to Ottawa to protest the COVID lockdowns and vaccine mandates.
And I thought, I need to be there.
Little did he know that he would become publicly marked and have his bank account frozen.
I felt betrayed. I've never convicted of a crime. I wasn't charged of a crime, and yet my government found it necessary to label me and freeze everything I own.
Today, he is the co-founder of Veterans for Freedom and has filed a civil lawsuit against the Trudeau administration.
Citizens and ex-military people didn't return any violence. Nothing, not a punch, nothing. And to be beaten that way and treated like that, the world saw. They know what happened.